In this demonstration, I'll use Deployment Manager to create a GCP deployment and maintain it. I'll also view its resource usage in a virtual machine using Stackdriver. I'll work with the Deployment Manager in Cloud Shell. So I'm going to open up Cloud Shell. And I'm going to define a variable containing my zone. This must be reused in a moment. I'm now going to use the gsutil command to download a YAML file that's already been created. This is a template that has already been prepared for my VM. It'll download. If we have a look at this file, we can see that it gives us a definition of what our VM should look like. We're going to call it my VM. It will be based in US Central 1. It will have this type of machine type. It will have a persistent disk. It will be running a version of Windows Server. So what I want to do now is I want to paste in, see where we have project ID here. I want to add that in to my deployment file. So I'm going to add in my command here. And what that's going to do is it's going to update anywhere where it says project ID in the file with my actual project ID. So if I were to run the cat command again, you can see now we have the quick labs command in there. Now that I have my project ID substituted into this file, I'm going to deploy this file, again using the gcloud deployment manager command. And this will take a moment or two to actually deploy. And now our deployment has worked. You can see it's given us a warning saying that this version of the Windows Server is to be deprecated, but for this example, this is fine. What I want to do now is I want to verify that this has worked. So I'm going to click on my products and service menu. I'm going to go down to Compute Engine, and I am going to go to VM instances. I don't need my tutorial there. And we can see that we have my VM there, and it has been based in US Central A1. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to change our template. The change we're going to add in is we're going to add a startup script to our Windows VM. So we need to use Nano to edit this. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to go down to here, and we're going to paste in our command, and we just need to tidy up the spaces, so I will quickly do that. And now we have fixed the indentation in our YAML file. Remember that the YAML files are very sensitive to correct spacing, so you may get errors the first time you do it, and it's a matter of fixing the spacing in between the start of the line and where the text begins. The YAML files do not accept tab spaces. We're going to save this file. And now what we're going to do is we're going to update our deployment. So before I do that, if I check in here into my deployment, and we scroll down a little bit, we have no custom metadata here. The update that I have done will add a custom metadata field where it will install the Chocolatey package manager. So the command to update our deployment is this, and it's going to take the same deployment, my first delve, and it's going to redeploy the same deployment file, or the updated deployment file, to that deployment. So it's not going to create a new VM for us, it's going to update the existing VM. And again, this will take a moment or two to actually spin up. Okay, so now that we have deployed something using a deployment manager, and we have updated that deployment manager, we're finished with this section here. So I'm going to close down the Cloud Shell, and we're going to go back out to here. And what we're now going to do is we're going to RDP into this VM. We're going to put some artificial load onto the virtual machine, and we're going to monitor that load in Stackdriver. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to RDP into our VM. Okay, so we're in our Windows VM. Let's open up PowerShell. And we are going to create an incredibly simple loop. So our loop is going to say while true, do nothing. And that's it. We're going to run this command, and this is an infinite loop. If any of you have taken a computer science course where there was a programming element and your teacher explained how infuriating infinite loops are, this is a really good example. They put artificial load unnecessarily on a machine. So now that that's running, let's hop back to our cloud console and observe what that is doing to the VM. Okay, so we're back in our cloud shell. We're going to go to products and service menu, and we're going to scroll down to monitor or monitoring. And this is going to provision a workspace for us. So this will take a couple of minutes, so we'll check back in once it is done. Okay, we are back and we are in Stackdriver monitoring. We are already in the workspace that has been provisioned specifically for our project. If we had additional projects, we could add them here, but we don't for this example. The new Stackdriver interface will also give us some of our monitoring tools automatically created for us. So here we can see this is the CPU utilization. And here, if I click into it, we can see that the utilization started a while ago and it span up massively, and that's when the VM was being created, and then it dipped, and over time that dip will go down, but then I've put an artificial load on my VM. So I'm going to let a little bit of time elapse. I'm not going to make you wait through this, so we'll check back in maybe 5-10 minutes, and you'll be able to see how the VM utilization or the CPU utilization went very high when it was being created. It dropped back down low when it was not been utilized. It went very high again when we had our artificial load put on it. And then I'm going to cancel that infinite loop, and we'll see the utilization drop down to a lower level again. So we'll check back in a couple of minutes. Okay, and we've let a little bit of time elapse, and you can see here, this is where the VM was spinning up. Here is where the utilization dropped when we weren't using it, and here is where we have the artificial load been put on the VM. So I'm going to revert back to the VM now. I'm going to cancel this loop. It'll take a second to do it. We can see that we've cancelled the loop there, and if I revert back to my Stackdriver, we should see that the utilization then will drop back down again. Okay, and a little bit more time has elapsed, and we can see as well that our utilization has dropped back down again once the Stackdriver monitoring has picked up that our VM is not under artificial load. In this way, we could see how our VM could be suffering from excess amounts of requests, or if there was a application that had a memory leak in it, it's a nice way of being able to identify where issues may be in our VM. And that's the end of this lab.